How's it going, guys? My name's Dice. Welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys an updated camera settings guide. The last one I uploaded was about 6 months ago, so I thought that there was some new information that I could give and just a more updated version. And yeah, before I get straight into the video, if this video helps you guys out at all, please be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. So before I show the different ranges of camera settings, I want to explain the benefits of camera settings. Camera settings, they affect your first touches, they affect the way that you see the ball, they affect how you can see the opponents. They pretty much affect everything in the game, right? They affect the mechanics you can do, they affect, what you can see, like your FOV, they affect pretty much everything. So when you're choosing the right camera settings, I would argue it's the most important setting in all of Rocket League, aside from making sure you have the right FPS on, because playing on 60 FPS would be much worse than having pretty subpar camera settings. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into it now that we know what you need to rank up. So I'm going to be giving you guys ranges from, pro players. Of course, pro players do have the best camera settings because, their gameplay matters the most out of anyone. So starting out with camera shake, if you want, you can have camera shake. Everyone says don't have camera shake, but I really feel like it wouldn't really matter that much. Of course, I don't use camera shake, but I have a few friends that are SSL that do use it, and I really don't think it's that bad. I think it's kind of funny, to be honest. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. A lot of haters, they don't use it, but I don't really think it matters. For FOV, the most common range is going to be 107 to 110, and you might think or ask yourself the question, why would you have 107 FOV? You can see less of the field. And while I like where you're coming from, it's not entirely that simple. So your FOV, the lower you are, obviously the less field you can see, so the closer you are to the center of your screen, right? So everything here, the lower your FOV is, the more close you're going to be to the center of the pitch. So when you lower your FOV, you're closer to your car, right? Because obviously your car is in the center of the pitch. So if I have the lowest FOV, obviously I'm more center, like it's just pushing the center of the entire field, like it just pushes this. So that's all it is. So the reason people will have a little bit of a lower FOV is so they can be closer to their car, right? And then you might say, why are people closer to their car? And it's so that they can have more precise first touches. So you'll notice that when I'm dribbling with this FOV, I can see exactly where the ball is on my corner, like the exact location it would be for good flicks. I am trying a new version of flicking, which is why they're not very powerful. You just have more control and more visuals of what you're doing. So then distance, the range here is, aside from freestylers, remember, this is just in competitive play is what I'm talking about. So of course freestylers use distances like, 190 or so, or like crazy numbers. I don't really know, I'm not a freestyler, but the competitive range is about 250 to 290. Some people use 300, but that's really on the outlandish side of things. But about 250 to 290, 300. A lot of people use 260 to 290, but there's a few pros who use 250 and 300, which is why I included that number. But a lot of the time people will pair 260, a low distance, with a low FOV, which just really amplifies what you can do. So like especially with air dribble bumps, when you have this distance and you get this touch, you can really get precise and you can pretty much see everything that's going on. A lot of times people in 1v1 will use these two to pair. There is 1v1 settings, which I think is a little bit on the extra side. Like some people have settings just for 1v1 and some people have settings just for 2v2, because 1v1 a lot of high ranked players just play off of air dribble bumps. And yeah, so. And then as well with height, people will also pair low height with this, like this. And then that's like the three pillars basically for your camera settings, is your FOV, your distance, and your height. And yeah, this kind of gives me like freestyler settings, like vibes. But yeah, I mean, you could do some pretty cool mechanics here. Like, of course, I'm not a freestyler. Oh, that's a really bad setup. But like, I can do some pretty crazy mechanics when I have this camera setting on. I guess not right now. But yeah, that's basically the idea. I don't really play like this. I play more so, with just traditional camera settings like this. Oh, I meant 100. And I feel like this is a good mix of airplay and ground play. When you're lower to the ground, it's usually going to be airplay. And when you're higher, it's usually going to be ground play, because you can see more of the ground when you're higher up. And so That's why my flicks weren't very good earlier, because I do normally use this, and as you can see, my flicks are much better. But that's basically the idea there. So like the lower you are, you're looking up, and the higher you are, you're looking down, if that makes sense. So going on to the angle, this is basically, I mean, as you can see in the description right here, controls the default angle at which your camera points towards the car. So obviously, the lower your angle, the lower you're looking, and the higher your angle, the higher you're looking. Pretty common sense. So you don't really want an angle like that. The range here is usually going to be about -5 to -3. That's usually the range here. I'm just going to stick with -4, just staying in the middle here. Like my camera settings that I like are really a mix of both worlds. I don't really like having an extreme side on one, voice crack, and then an extreme side on the other. I like to have a mix of both. That's just my personal preference. And once again, everything I'm telling you right now is personal preference, and you can really have any camera settings you want. I'm just telling you guys what you are going to have the highest probability of ranking up with. So, stiffness range here is about 0.45 to about 0.65. Of course, there is people that use different ranges, but that's the general range. So yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into the stiffness. It's a little bit complicated, but basically the idea is that the lower your stiffness is, the more your car will change based on your speed. So right here, you notice how I'm full speed, it's a completely different look than when I'm 0 speed. And obviously the opposite is the other way. So my car will look the exact same no matter how fast I'm going. And some players do use this. I think Flakes does, I think Lethamir does, but those are just a few outland-ish players. No offense to them. And I mean, they are pretty cool. Like, I mean, it's not cool, but it's like, you can see more, I guess, but it's just not, it just looks bad to me personally. It's just my opinion. I don't really like it. So I'm going to stick to about 0.55, 0.65 in that range. Swivel speed. Your swivel speed is basically your right joystick or your camera. Unfortunately, keyboard and mouse players do not have a free camera. But with your camera here, you can, basically move around. And the reason people use their camera, especially in 1v1, is if the ball's on your car, you obviously can't see through the ball. So some people move their camera to see when someone's going to challenge. I kind of scuffed it, but you do this and you can kind of see when someone's challenging while moving the ball around so no one challenges you. And that's basically the idea there. And so that's a swivel speed. And so the higher it is, the faster your camera will move. Obviously, I'm just going to drag it because it's a pretty big number here. And it would take a minute. So like this kind of hurts my eyes a bit. So I just prefer this range. There's really not a specific range for this one. This is just personal preference completely. Same thing with transition speed. For me, if you have a really low transition speed and you're saying, oh, is it safe for me to go for this boost or something like that, it takes too long to get to the ball, right? But you also don't want it on the other side where this it's like snapping and it kind of hurts my neck or my eyes or my mind. I don't know. I just don't like it. It hurts my head. And so 1.7 is the fastest I can go without it like being painful, because it's not like a snap. It's just like a really fast, switch, but it's not like snapping there. So I would recommend going as high as you can without it being uncomfortable to you, because you really want to do things as quick as possible. You don't really want to just be sitting there and waiting, half the game to know if the ball is in a dangerous position. But once again, preference here. I just say what I like and what other pros like. So yeah. And then last one here, invert swivel. This basically just inverts your camera. So if you put your joystick down, I know I don't have a controller cam on, but if you put your joystick down, you'll look up. If you put your joystick down, you'll look up. If you put your joystick up, you'll look down. So that's basically the idea for that. I do have another settings guide for everything. I didn't want to go too deep into all of the things here just because camera alone, as you can see, we're almost at a 10-minute video. And so it would be probably, a long video explaining each thing and, the best controls, the best interface, the best video settings, all that. But yeah, you guys can go watch that other video I had. It's not very long. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Peace.